BrightRock believes that with every change in life comes opportunity. The World Economic Forum puts change, its challenges and its opportunities on a global stage. This World Economic Forum special edition BizNews podcast is illuminated by BrightRock, the first ever needs-match life insurance that changes as your life changes.
Mstyslav Chernov, Associated Press photographer, videographer, war correspondent, you gave a very stirring message in the reporting from Frontlines briefing now. It's so important to hear the voices of journalists, war correspondents who are on the front line in Ukraine. How are you feeling discussing that with other journalists? Are you sometimes uncomfortable and looking at all those visuals that you've taken? Is it difficult sometimes?
It's difficult, but I keep coming back to those materials I've done, and I keep telling myself it's important to continue and not to stop, to speak to as much people as possible, just to make sure that these things are not forgotten, not turned away from. It's not my direct obligation as a journalist. My direct obligation as a journalist to be a witness. But as a Ukrainian, I would also want the whole world know what's going on. Just even not as a Ukrainian, as a human. Because more people see, more people know, more they hopefully will do to make sure that this is not going to be repeated again. I think this whole war, this whole invasion is possible because most of the people, many people forgot what the war is, what the real war is.
The importance of giving people information, images, how they interpret it is something you picked up on. The interpretation is sometimes the tricky bit. The fight is no longer about giving somebody visuals or footage. It's about the interpretation and the context. Is that correct?
Yeah, but as a journalists, as a reporters, we have little control of how people interpret what they see. But then again, I would see my footage shown by different channels, and sometimes I would hear completely opposite descriptions of what's going on the screen. I have no control over it, so I'll just keep doing my job. But I guess there are several things that could be done to make sure that this happens less. The first thing is to make sure that people who are reporting on the ground, organizations who are reporting on the ground, they keep the standards and they are trustworthy and reliable. It's much easier to misinterpret mobile footage from just a citizen or a handout of a government. It's much easier to misinterpret and to use it for propaganda. And the second part is that people just need to be educated. I think that's an ultimate solution to misinformation problem. People have to be educated, and so they can themselves understand what is a lie, what is truth, or where, at least the balance lies.
Something that really stuck out to me was you said you obviously terrified. You don't want to leave a safe space when you're in Mariupol. You have to suppress your fear. And that's exactly the definition of courage, is action despite your fear. Is it uncomfortable to you to consider yourself as somebody courageous? Is it uncomfortable, or is it just work that you have to do?
I don't know. If that is a definition of courage, then okay. But anyway, this is what probably all Ukrainians do now. And all the journalists, all international journalists who are in Ukraine do now. So being in a war, being in a conflict takes some courage. But if you know why you're doing this, then it's much easier to do.
It's such an important message that you came here to give to the rest of the world. I will say thank you for your courage, and thank you for the times that you have gone out when you really didn't want to. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to my stories and the Ukrainians.
Thanks for tuning in to this World Economic Forum special edition BizNews podcast illuminated by BrightRock, the first ever needs-match life insurance that changes as your life changes.